Hey guys, it's James here from Appalachian DIY, and I wanted to talk a little bit today about this Mityvac vacuum pump kit that I recently got. This is actually to replace my old Mityvac, which finally bit the dust after about 10 years and abuse and all that. So I found this one. You can obviously get these off the tool trucks, but I found this one on Amazon for 60 bucks. This is the complete kit with the case, all the fancy doodads and all that good stuff for 60 bucks. And this is the metal one, not the plastic one. Like my old one was the plastic one, which is fine, but this one just looks a lot nicer. And basically, when you buy one off of say Snap-on or Mac or Matco or whoever, this is what you're getting. It's made by Mityvac. They don't make these things, from what I know, and so anyways, so yeah, they don't make them. They get them from Mityvac. They rebrand them, which there's nothing wrong with that. Mityvac makes a great product, and there's no reason why other companies shouldn't utilize that. Anyway, let's get to this Mityvac. All right, so inside the case. We have a few key items here. We obviously have the Mityvac itself. We have a hose, two hoses in fact. We have some nifty attachments here in the bottom of the case, and then we have a very nice manual which tells you a lot of different ways to diagnose problems using the Mityvac. Problems including fuel pressure related problems, emissions related, say like EGR, and it doesn't say anything about EVAP testing because I think this manual is really old, or they just didn't include it for whatever reason. But primarily in an automotive shop, or at least what I use it for, is for EVAP testing. So anyways, but you can also do brake bleeding with this, which is what some of these adapters are for capping off master cylinders and different things like that. Like this one right here is kind of obvious what it does. When you're bleeding brakes and stuff like that, this goes on the top of the master cylinder. But I'm not going to go into that because I don't use this for brake bleeding. Not that you can't. I just don't do it this way. This to me is for emissions testing. So let's get a closer look at the Mityvac. So this is the Elite model, the Silverline Elite model, as they call it, and you can see it is heavy duty, high quality metal. This is not the plastic thing. It's got a really nice gauge. When you buy one from Mac or Snap-on, it may say Snap-on on this gauge right here, but that's going to be the only difference. Everything else is it's exactly the same as this. Just like I said, this one's 60 bucks right now anyways on Amazon, and heck of a deal. So what it comes with, obviously we've shown you the Mityvac, the hoses that it comes with, which are pretty heavy duty, thick hoses. You can see it comes with this little jar which you'll use when brake bleeding. It has these right here. Basically they screw on to the top of, say, a brake fluid bottle, and when you're bleeding brakes using this, these go inside of the holes here on the master cylinder adapter. The brake fluid bottle will screw into that. It'll go upside down, and it'll basically have what it does is gives it a constant supply of brake fluid, etc., etc. I'm not going to go into like really how to use this thing because, for one, if you're buying one, you should already know basically what you're buying it for. So I don't really see a huge point in that. Plus, this manual right here. Normally manuals with tools aren't super necessary, and this one isn't necessary either. But it's cool because it has a lot of information on how to test, and kind of the way the vacuum system on the car works, but how to test things. Like right here, diagnosing mechanical engine conditions. So you've got a lot of things here that it kind of gives you hints and tips on how to use this to look at. I never really thought about using a vacuum pump like this to diagnose a blown head gasket, but you could do it. Any sort of verification when you're talking about head gaskets is something that you want, because you don't want to sell a head gasket job if it doesn't need it. So it kind of tells you that obviously the PCV system, especially on BMWs and German cars and things like that, the PCV system is very intricate and incredibly over-engineered, and a vacuum pump like this, is kind of a must-have whenever you're working with the PCV system. Fuel pressure regulator testing, that's kind of a given. Vacuum-operated fuel pressure regulators, they have a diaphragm in there. I mean, you can see it right there. It kind of gives you a generic fuel pressure regulator. So obviously you can test those with this tool, which I do use it for that. But let's go over here a little bit. It'll talk about EGR testing. Now, a lot of EGR valves have a vacuum port right on it. You can pump it up, check the vacuum on it, see if it holds vacuum. And what you're looking for, let's see if I can do this. What you're looking for, say you have your, say this is your EGR valve. You have a hose going from your EGR valve up to here. You want to see if the EGR valve holds vacuum. So say this is hooked up to the EGR valve. You'll pump it up. So it's holding vacuum right now, assuming that my finger is the EGR valve. The EGR valve is holding vacuum. You can see at 20 inches right now, negative 20 inches of vacuum, or mercury. So say if the EGR valve, the diaphragm was bad inside the EGR valve, it's leaking vacuum, you might kind of see that. So obviously that would be a bad EGR valve. Now that's not the only thing inside of an EGR valve that goes bad, but as far as this vacuum pump is concerned, that's what we're looking for. So here we go. We got a good EGR valve. We got a bad EGR valve, not holding vacuum. Or you could just pump it up. Boom. It won't hold any vacuum. And the same thing when testing EVAP components, purge valves and things like that. You'll have one side that goes to the intake and then one side that goes towards, like, say, the gas tank. So you put vacuum on the intake side of your purge valve and it doesn't hold vacuum, that purge valve is bad. It needs to hold vacuum because it opens and closes. So if your purge valve is closed and you apply vacuum to the intake side of that purge valve, then it should hold that vacuum. Once the purge valve opens, boom, then obviously it won't hold vacuum. But when the purge valve is closed, so when testing an EVAP valve, when the purge valve is closed, it should hold vacuum from the intake side. So you have one port here, that goes to the intake manifold, and then the other port over here that goes to, like, the gas tank or somewhere outside in the rest of your EVAP system. So you would apply vacuum on this side with the purge valve closed. It doesn't hold vacuum. You just diagnosed it as EVAP. Now a code like that for the EVAP system could be a large EVAP leak, and typically that's what you'll see is you'll see a large EVAP leak on your check engine light code. So okay, well, you do the smoke test obviously for EVAP leaks, but if you're not seeing anything, then you need to think about the EVAP valves, because it may not be leaking outside, where you can see it, like to the atmosphere, but it could be leaking inside the engine, inside the intake manifold, because this EVAP purge valve is basically stuck open, or the diaphragm inside is no longer good, so it doesn't make a seal. So all this gasoline fuel vapors are just constantly being pulled in instead of staying where they're supposed to be. So anyway, that's kind of what I use it for typically, and then EGR valve testing. But it gives you a whole lot of information about EGR testing on here that you can kind of go through and familiarize yourself. And even if you already know all this stuff, it's just a good, it's a good refresher course. It gives you a whole lot of information on kind of how to use it. And then it goes on to talk about fluid refilling, which most people are going to be using it for brakes. So it kind of gives you like a whole big section on bleeding brakes. So enough of that for now. I'm already like being long-winded. I apologize. So let's just show you the rest of the stuff that it comes with. I already showed you the pump, the 2 hoses it comes with. It comes with the adapters for the master cylinder. You got another smaller adapter there. You got this other little doohickey there, the thing, and then here's all the adapters. And what's cool about this case is that you're gonna, over the years and over time, you're gonna make your own little attachments and things like that for this vacuum pump, but it comes with a pretty good assortment of caps and things like that already. So you can kind of go through here. It's got some short sections of hoses, and then all these other little caps and adapters and things like that, which are very handy. And all this stuff you could buy and you can make yourself. You can get from the parts store, all these little like vacuum attachments for pretty cheap. But it comes with, it's a good starter kit for 60 bucks. You really can't beat the deal. And plus with this nice case, as long as you take care of this vacuum pump, you know, you shouldn't have to worry about anything, you know, about it breaking on you. I mean, eventually they do fail, but it has a whole list of parts. You can actually rebuild these because the parts are all available, and it tells you inside the manual. So you can kind of easily figure out what you need if something were to actually happen. But I think it has a warranty of 1 year on it anyway. So just we'll take one close look at the pump itself again. This gauge does rotate, so you can kind of put it where you want it, which is pretty neat. This is the release for the vacuum. So you pump it up, you want to release it, boom, you hit that right there. This lever right here switches it from vacuum to pressure, positive pressure, negative pressure. So right there would be negative pressure or vacuum, positive pressure or blow. So suck or blow, however you want to look at it. It sucks and it blows. It applies vacuum, it creates pressure. So whatever you need to use it for, it will do it, and it does it well. And you know, I'm really excited about having a metal version. The plastic one works fine, but this thing is just, I mean, it's heavy duty. Plus it sounds cool. So yeah, like I say, if you're a tech and you do any sort of diagnostics on cars, you're not just a casual goer, even if you are just a DIYer, these things are real handy for a lot of things, including brake bleeding. I don't use it for that, but you know, it works for that if you want to do it that way. It works just fine, and but especially for EVAP related and EGR and emissions related type diagnosing, this tool is really a must-have. So spend the $60 from Amazon and pick one up, or if you don't have $60, I guess you could buy one from the tool truck and pay, you know, $150 and just pay it week to week, whatever you want to do. You know, it's all fine. But definitely get the one with the case and with all the adapters, because you can buy just this pump for, you know, 30 or 40 bucks, or you can spend an extra $20 and you get the whole case with all the little doohickeys and all the stuff to do basically whatever you want to do with it. So here's the model number, and I will wrap this up because I have already talked way too much about this. And thanks for watching again, and we will see you soon.